Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Empire Builders, the rise and fall of civilizations. You know, sometimes history is hidden in plain sight, right in our kitchens. I was making a chai the other day, a little habit from home I keep in my New York apartment, and as I grated just a bit of nutmeg into the pot, I stopped. I held this little brown seed. It's so ordinary now, so cheap. You can get a jar of it for a couple of dollars. But 400 years ago, this was worth more than gold. Men killed for it. Nations went to war over it. An entire island paradise was virtually emptied of its people for the control of trees that grew this seed. Today, we're following the scent of a single spice to uncover a story of obsession, empire, and one of history's first and most forgotten genocides. This is Episode 6, The Spice Race, How Nutmeg Shaped Empires and Sparked Genocide. To understand the madness, we have to go back to early 17th century Europe. Imagine a world without refrigeration. Meat, especially in winter, is often salted, old, and frankly, tastes terrible. Now imagine discovering a spice that doesn't just mask the flavor, but transforms it. A spice believed to ward off the plague. A spice that was a symbol of ultimate wealth and status. That was nutmeg. And it grew in exactly one place on Earth. A tiny cluster of islands in the far eastern seas, the Banda Islands. For the sultans and merchants of the East, it was a valuable trade good. For the newly arrived European powers, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, and the English, it was an obsession. They weren't just buying and selling. They were playing a high-stakes game of geopolitical monopoly. Whoever controlled the Banda Islands controlled the global supply of nutmeg. And the Dutch East India Company, the VOC, was determined to be that monopoly. The VOC wasn't a country. It was a corporation with a private army, the power to wage war, and a shareholder-driven mandate for profit at any cost. When they arrived in the Bandas, they found a sophisticated society of Muslim traders and growers who had been dealing with foreigners for centuries. The Bandanese were savvy. They played the Europeans off each other, selling to the English, the Portuguese, and the Dutch to keep prices high and no single power too strong. But the VOC's model couldn't tolerate this free market. They demanded sole trading rights, an exclusive contract. The Bandanese leaders, understandably, refused. They saw no reason to hand over their sovereignty and their livelihoods to a foreign corporation. This refusal was, in the eyes of the VOC, an act of war. And so, in 1621, the company sent its most ruthless governor, Jan Pieterszoon Cohen, to solve the Bandanese problem once and for all. What followed was a calculated atrocity. Cohen's forces, with superior weapons, overwhelmed the islands. But conquest wasn't enough. Cohen wanted to make an example. He accused the Bandanese leaders of treason for breaking contracts they were forced to sign at gunpoint. They were beheaded. Their villages were burned. Then began the systematic eradication. Thousands of Bandanese were slaughtered. Thousands more were enslaved and shipped off to other Dutch colonies. Out of an estimated population of 15,000 people, only about 1,000 survived the initial violence and deportations. The islands were virtually emptied. To work the nutmeg plantations, the VOC brought in enslaved people from elsewhere in Asia and convict laborers. The Bandanese people, their culture, their language, their very presence on their ancestral islands, were nearly wiped out. It was a genocide for a grocery list, all for the control of a spice. And here's a chilling twist in the story, one that shows how deeply interconnected these empires were. One tiny Banda Island, Run, was held by the English. It was the last foothold of any competitor in the nutmeg heartland. After years of skirmishing, the Dutch and English sat down to negotiate. And in 1667, they signed the Treaty of Breda. In this treaty, two global superpowers swapped territories. The Dutch gave the English a small, remote, swampy island in the New World. The English gave the Dutch the island of Run. Think about that. The Dutch wanted the nutmeg monopoly so completely, they were willing to trade away a piece of North America. And the English, focused on their Caribbean sugar interests, agreed. That little swampy island the Dutch thought so worthless? It was called Manhattan. The trade, in hindsight, seems ludicrous, but it tells you everything about the value system of the age. A concrete, productive spice island in Asia was worth more than an abstract, undeveloped piece of a new continent. So what happened? How did nutmeg go from being worth a fortune to being that dust on your latte? The monopoly held for a while. The Dutch guarded their trees ferociously, dipping nutmegs in lime to prevent them from being grown elsewhere. But empires fracture. In the late 18th century, a French botanist named Pierre Poivre, yes, Peter Pepper, smuggled out live nutmeg seedlings. He got them to Mauritius, and from there, they spread to other French and later British colonies, like Grenada in the Caribbean. The monopoly was broken. By the 19th century, nutmeg was being grown across the tropics. Supply soared, price plummeted. The spice that built an empire and motivated a massacre became just a spice. I think about this story a lot, especially as someone who's lived in both the developing world and the heart of a modern empire like New York. It's a stark lesson in how value is constructed. The Bandanese didn't see nutmeg as a world-controlling commodity. They saw it as a trade good, a part of their life and landscape. The Europeans projected onto it a mythical value, a value that justified any action to secure it. It makes me wonder what the nutmeg of our time is. What seemingly ordinary resource or technology do we ascribe earth-shattering, civilization-altering value to today? And what unseen costs, what distant human stories, are wrapped up in our pursuit of it? The genocide of the Bandanese is a footnote in most history books, overshadowed by the grand narratives of empire. But it shows us that the rise of these global commercial systems wasn't just about trade routes and treaties. It was often built on a foundation of profound and targeted human suffering. The next time you see nutmeg on a shelf, I hope you'll remember this story. Remember the Bandanese. Remember that the conveniences and flavors of our interconnected world have a long, and often very dark, history. It's a reminder to look deeper, to ask where things come from, and to understand that the maps of empire are often drawn in the blood of the overlooked. Thanks for listening. If this story resonated with you, please share this episode with someone. It helps us keep telling these essential stories. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this has been Empire Builders, a production of Light Knot Studios. Visit us at lightknotstudios.com. Until next time.